Bai Wu is 18 years old and the author of a published book called Growth Slime. Starting today, he found himself walking down the street. He revealed that he had been thrown out onto the street because he couldn't pay rent. He had been escorted out, and his lock had been changed. Now, faced with the threat of sleeping on the street if he couldn't gather enough money for rent, he began considering his options. In the midst of his financial struggles, he noticed that the prices of new books had fallen, while the price of the manuscript continued to rise. He searched his pockets and found a few bills, realizing that he could only afford to eat a couple of times with the remaining money. Faced with desperation, he contemplated trying his luck in a gambling house. As he walked, he saw a sign that caught his attention. He pondered whether buying lottery tickets or not would even make a difference, given the state of his life. Feeling his life was already in ruins, he entered the building, approached a man inside, and requested 5 lottery tickets, hoping luck would be on his side. The man placed 5 tickets on the table and inquired which one Bai Wu wanted. Just as he was about to make a decision, he noticed something peculiar. The percentage of success was displayed next to all 5 tickets. This discovery puzzled him. He wondered whether he might have been affected by alcohol from the previous night, or if he was experiencing some kind of illusion. Driven by curiosity, he reached out to touch the sign that indicated a 100% success rate. He questioned whether he was the only one who could see it, or if it was a trick of the mind. Deciding to test it, he chose a ticket labeled with a 100% success rate and rubbed it with a coin. To his astonishment, he found that he had won a reward. Eager to capitalize on this apparent phenomenon, he told the boss he needed 2 more tickets with 100% success rates. He also selected tickets with success rates of 50% and 0%. He won varying amounts from these tickets. As he continued experimenting, he learned that the percentages above the tickets indicated the chance of success, and the winnings were random. Bai Wu then requested 10 more tickets, hoping to capitalize further on his perceived luck. With each round of ticket scratching, he accumulated more money. However, the boss cautioned him about the risks of gambling addiction and the importance of knowing when to stop. Undeterred, Bai Wu couldn't help but think about how much better it would be if he knew the specific amount he would win. He questioned the boss about the calculation of probabilities. Upon closer inspection of the box containing lottery tickets, he noticed various success rates. Some tickets boasted success rates of 150%, 200%, and more. Despite the boss's reluctance, Bai Wu was determined to test his luck further. He chose tickets with success rates of 10%, eventually winning again. The boss became increasingly frustrated by his winning streak, while Bai Wu believed he had cracked the code. He realized that the percentage of success was influenced by the question he asked. In the end, Bai Wu understood that by asking the right questions and manipulating the odds, he could outsmart the shop owner and shape his destiny. Bai Wu grinned and excitedly informed the boss of the store about his incredible luck that day. The man, already taken aback, inquired about his luck, and Bai Wu playfully declared himself to be the reincarnation of the gambling god. Bai Wu mused that his abilities felt divine and shared his wish for a few dozen more tickets, perhaps even packs of them. The boss acknowledged Bai Wu's remarkable luck but advised him against succumbing to addiction. Bai Wu reassured the boss that he wouldn't let himself become addicted, believing that his luck might extend to these tickets as well. He entertained the idea of winning 20,000 yuan, placed another ticket on the table, and started rubbing the foil to reveal his winnings. The boss watched with tense anticipation, and when Bai Wu won once more, the boss let out a sigh of relief. However, this time, the ticket instructed Bai Wu to try again. The boss reminded Bai Wu that endless luck doesn't exist and cautioned him not to rely too heavily on it. Bai Wu recognized the truth in the boss's words, but he believed his new ability wasn't just about luck. He delved into researching the lottery tickets, only to find repeated instructions to try again. Despite the boss's warning, Bai Wu managed to win another round, feeling as though his luck was now depleted for the year. He analyzed all the tickets again, finding that most had 0% luck except for one with an inexplicable 30,000% success rate. Intrigued, Bai Wu purchased the unlikely ticket, suspecting that the other 0% tickets were intentionally bought by the boss to divert suspicion. The boss agreed to give Bai Wu 20 lottery tickets, planning to return only a portion of the winnings to him. Bai Wu thanked the boss, expressing disbelief that his luck had seemingly reversed. Determined to maximize his newfound ability, Bai Wu revealed another winning ticket, but this time with a modest 20 yuan prize. The boss breathed a sigh of relief, relieved that the amount was small. Then, to everyone's surprise, Bai Wu won again, and again, and again. His victories were small, leaving the boss more at ease, but Bai Wu couldn't help but question the authenticity of his luck. His biggest win was merely 100 yuan, prompting Bai Wu to wish for 1,000,000 yuan. He exclaimed his wish fervently, but the boss reminded him that even though he had experienced both victory and loss, the chances of winning 1,000,000 yuan wouldn't increase. Bai Wu's winning streak continued, much to the boss's astonishment. Bai Wu managed to secure another 15,000 yuan, and the boss wondered aloud about Bai Wu's incredible fortune. Bai Wu inquired about the boss's previous comment on luck, and the boss dismissed it as nothing. However, the boss realized something important. The printing factories distribute the packages evenly, so the chances of finding winning tickets in Bai Wu's hands were slim. Addressing Bai Wu, the boss questioned how many more tickets he intended to buy. He suggested that Bai Wu's luck was exceptional today, but it would eventually be someone else's turn to buy the tickets. Bai Wu contemplated the situation, realizing that only the losing tickets remained in the pack, making it a profitable business. Analyzing the remaining tickets, Bai Wu questioned the probability of success for each. Spotting a ticket with only a 5% chance of winning, he told the boss he didn't need it, believing his luck had been exhausted. Bai Wu calculated that the chances of winning ranged from 30% to 5%, prompting him to conclude that it was time to quit. The boss persisted, urging Bai Wu to capitalize on his extraordinary luck, but Bai Wu understood the risk of losing hundreds of yuan and recognized when it was better to stop. The boss assumed that Bai Wu simply didn't want to continue, but Bai Wu reassured him that he understood the boss's concern for his well-being. As Bai Wu walked towards the exit, he marveled at his incredible luck that day. However, a thought crossed his mind. Could he use this newfound power beyond just the lottery? He paused at the exit, intrigued by the idea of testing the chances of success for everyday actions. He reached out to touch the exit door and discovered that the chance of successfully opening it was 100%. Delighted by this revelation, Bai Wu considered the implications of his ability. But his happiness was short-lived as he noticed that the success rates were diminishing. He took a step back from the door, and the chance of success dropped to 0. Suddenly, a dog crashed into the door, breaking it. Bai Wu felt fortunate to have avoided that potential disaster, reflecting on the dog's careless behavior. The boss, alarmed by the door incident, confronted Bai Wu and questioned how he had known it would happen. He grabbed Bai Wu's hand and insisted that he couldn't just leave without an explanation. Bai Wu cursed inwardly, realizing that his actions might have seemed suspicious to the boss. After analyzing the situation, Bai Wu calculated a 50% chance that the boss would believe his claim of being a psychic. To increase the odds, he fabricated a story that his parents possessed clairvoyant abilities, passed down through generations for over 2,000 or 3,000 years since the Zhou dynasty. The boss felt skeptical and questioned the validity of such an ancient lineage, pointing out that if his family had such abilities for centuries, they should be more renowned. Bai Wu noticed the success rate dropping further and acknowledged that his explanation clashed with a scientific perspective. He improvised, claiming that his family had kept their abilities secret to avoid being exploited in dynastic conflicts. This story intrigued the boss, causing the success rate to rise again. Bai Wu seized the opportunity and added that he had witnessed his psychic techniques, pushing the success rate to 80%. The boss considered the possibility, and Bai Wu affirmed that he indeed relied on fortune, which was determined by the will of heaven. Bai Wu attributed his previous losses as a heavenly omen. The success rate increased to 90%, and the boss expressed disbelief that such luck could exist. Bai Wu illustrated his point by gesturing towards the broken door and shared an experience where a whisper warned him to step back. The boss grabbed Bai Wu's hand, addressing him as Mister, he asked if Bai Wu found it difficult to calculate certain things. Bai Wu recognized this as an opportunity to test his ability and answered that it wasn't too challenging. He explained that he focused on the cause and effect relationships of a situation, using his ability to guide him towards favorable outcomes. He emphasized that fortune played a role in aiding him to manage these situations. The boss inquired about the specifics of Bai Wu's ability, prompting Bai Wu to ask what he needed to calculate based on the given information. The man was very happy and said that he would like him to help her. His hometown was recently demolished, and he never received compensation. He would like to find out from the master how much money he can be paid for this. Bai Wu asked him what was a reasonable compensation for him. The man thought about it and said that there are 200 or 300 square meters, and each square costs about 10,000. Hearing this, Bai Wu thought about it and thought that, let's say, what is the chance that the boss will receive compensation of 2 million? He was given that 100%. Then Bai Wu thought, what if 3 million? He was given 100% again. Then Bai Wu thought, what about 4 million? I gave out 100 again. Bai Wu thought, what if 5 million? Then he was given 10. Bai Wu thought, what if 4.5? All this time, the man was looking at him very carefully. Then he asked him if he had found out the answer, to which Bai Wu replied that if he asked for 4.3 million, he would guarantee that he would not be refused. If he asks for 4.5 million, then the chance of success will be 80%. And if he asks for 4.8 million, then the chance will be 50%. The man was surprised and said that 4 million, is it really that much? But is he sure it's true? To which Bai Wu replied that if he did not believe him, then he could call and find out directly from them. And he thought that soon he would realize how cool his ability is. The man told him that he would call them right now. A minute later, when the man finished his conversation, he said that he completely agreed. He couldn't even believe it. He grabbed Bai Wu by the hand and told him that he was really a real psychic, causing and consequences. That's what it's all about. He gave him such a useful prediction. He will give him 300,000 yuan as his thanks. Bai Wu could barely contain his joy and said that heavens will be done. He himself thought that how lucky he was today. After some time, he received a notification from the bank which said that the Bank of China notifies him of the receipt of funds on his card in the amount of 300,000 yuan. Bai Wu said that he felt so uncomfortable, but, in fact, he was elated and thought that getting 300,000 was so easy. With this ability to see the success rate, he could fulfill any of his desires. Then they said goodbye. Coming out of this store, Bai Wu thought that just fine, as long as he uses this gold mine correctly, he will be able to change his life, achieve success. Then he saw that dog and thought that the dog was still here. But maybe he's looking for someone here too. He was given that it was 100%. Then Bai Wu said that since he had helped him earn a lot of money, maybe he would help him find its owner. Then this dog took the ball in his teeth and it popped out. He started hitting the walls of buildings and hitting the dog on the head. It bounced off and hit Bai Wu's head. The dog began to whine and Bai Wu thought that how his master copes with him. We need to find its owner. But where? After that, the dog rushed off somewhere, angering all the people in its path. Bai Wu ran after him and said that she could handle it without him, but should he follow her? 3 minutes later, in Hujiang Park, the dog kept running and Bai Wu followed her. Then he saw a girl in front of him who was standing by the bench and taking selfies. He was delighted with her beauty and thought that this girl was right 9 out of 10. Bai Wu, seeing the girl, thought, what is the chance that this girl is the owner of this dog? He was given that with a probability of 100%. Bai Wu thought that. It turns out that this beautiful girl is the owner of the dog. Initially, he wanted to help the dog find the owner because she helped him. He will try to talk to this girl using his new ability, but then he saw that she was not paying attention to him or her dog at all, but continued to take selfies. Bai Wu thought she had time for a selfie, that she had lost her dog. That girl turned around and saw the dog and told him that she also had a husky. Their dogs are so similar. Bai Wu thought that she couldn't even recognize her own dog. Why does he get the feeling that he is being deceived? The girl started stroking this dog and said that she even barks the same way, but her Oreo is more fun and much smarter. Bai Wu wanted to tell her something, but the girl did not pay attention to him at all and said that her family gave 501 bags of natural Oreo feed and her dog's fur is smoother than his. Bai Wu started coughing and thought that really, this cutie seriously does not recognize her dog. Then the girl turned to him and asked him if something was really wrong. Bai Wu exhaled and said that the fact was that it wasn't his dog, but her girlfriend laughed and said that it wasn't a very witty joke because her dog was tied to that bench. However, she saw that her dog had chewed through the collar and ran away. 5 minutes later, the girl apologized and thanked him for returning the dog to her. Bai Wu assured her that everything was fine. He was very happy to help her. At that moment, he found her page on social networks and started looking at her photos. He thought it was his first time adding a beautiful girl as a friend. He looked through her photos and saw how her dog behaves at home. She tears up furniture and spoils clothes. Therefore, Bai Wu could not stand it and said that they were having so much fun that the whole house was collapsing. If he had behaved like that, he would have been kicked out long ago. However, it's not for him to tell her about it because he himself was kicked out of his rented apartment today. Even the lock was changed. When the girl left, something came to Bai Wu's mind. He thought that if he could see the success rate, then why would he pay rent at all? He could become rich and just buy a house for himself. But by the way, how can he get rich and buy a house? Then 300,000 won't even be enough for the initial payment. He needs to come up with a quick and effective way to make money, a quick way to make money. Maybe then the lottery or antiques. Then he passed by the buildings on which it was written that collectible antiques. Bai Wu decided to walk there. When he entered, everyone started calling him and saying that an 80,000-year-old set called Tang 11 and Kai had arrived, available for everyone to buy. Someone said that the calligraphy of Tang and the song of 30,000 particles only. Now one person who came up will get a discount, and someone said that let them look because this is a porcelain cup from the Northern Song dynasty and quite inexpensive. He's going to sell it for 50,000. They also said that there was no need to pass by because these are the best works of his idol. A crowd surrounded him. 2 men who watched this scene said that what kind of a fool is he? Judging by his gait and actions, it is clear that he is still a beginner. Bai Wu was also at a loss and thought that these people were treating him like a brainless novice, easy prey, all in order to rip off his money. Then, unbeknownst to himself, he sat down next to some guy who told him that he inherited it all. His last name was Li, and his ancestor's name was Tang Shizhen Lai Shimon. Bai Wu pretended to be very happy and said that if he didn't mind, he would look at his goods. He thought that they didn't even guess that a beginner like him has such an unusual ability. No one will ever deceive him with her. So, what is the chance that there is a real antique among this junk? He was given that it was 100%. Bai Wu thought about it and wondered if it could be that it was all faked. Why does he smell some kind of trick? Something is wrong, but what? Let's say he knows it's all antiques, but he doesn't know how old he is. If he knew that, then he might find something rare. Then he should ask the question a little differently. What is the chance to get an antique worth 10,000? It was 0%. Then Bai Wu asked the question, what about 5,000? He was also given a 0. Then Bai Wu pointed to some kind of bracelet and asked the man if he would sell this. A man named Li said he had a sharp eye. This is the most valuable antique here. 60 herself has worn in the past 6. He is the great Dowager Empress of Qing China who ruled from 1861 to 1908. The man said that she would give him this bracelet for 20,000 yuan. Bai Wu got up and thought that some garbage could cost 20,000 yuan. Of course, he is not an expert, but it seems to him that he has just been deceived. Then the man started shouting at him not to leave because he was going to give him a discount, and asked him what about 10,000 yuan. But Bai Wu only quickened his pace and thought that, as expected, most of them are ordinary street scammers. I wonder how much he will be able to lower the price. He decided to take 10,000 as a price determinant. He thought that there was a chance that there would be something more expensive than 10,000 yuan in this shop. He was given that it would be 10%. Then he asked, what about 20,000? He was also given 10%. He asked, "What about 30,000? Everything also amounted to 10%. He asked the question, "What about 200,000? Everything was also 10%. Then Bai Wu thought that he could make a lot of money. The man, whose tricks Bai Wu was standing on now, thought that it looked like he needed to teach this guy a lesson. He told him that buying antiques depends only on his vigilance. He conducts his business honestly, and unlike others, he never tries to deceive his customers. Therefore, if something interests him, then let him not hesitate and ask him." He pointed to the vase and told him to look at it. "This is a pretty good product." But he was given that the value of this product is 0%. However, Bai Wu said no and pointed to another green vase and said he wanted this. The value of this product was 500,000. Bai Wu thought that he was not an easy beginner whom he could deceive so easily. Having the ability to see the percentage of success in his hands, Bai Wu will immerse himself in the world of antiques and become an expert appraiser in the future. Let the formation of a new legend begin. This man called Bai Wu a jerk and thought, "What's wrong with him? Why is he in such a hurry? Does he really not care what kind of object it is?" 10 bronze items out of 9 fake ones were sold, and 1 item remained. How can he inflate the prices of this garbage? At this time, Bai Wu thought that this fatty would surely take advantage of the opportunity and try to inflate his price. He slapped himself on the cheek and thought that he shouldn't have shown his interest too soon. After he saw the success rate, he was so overjoyed that he lost his vigilance. After that, the man handed him a vase and said that he seemed to have good taste. However, he should listen to his advice and first look at this porcelain. He should look at it more closely. He thinks it's very interesting to him, so he will only tell the truth. He should look at this circle because it is completely handmade. He hit the jug and asked him if he could hear the clear sound. However, it is not cheap, and its cost is about 50,000. If he can resell it, he'll make a lot of money. Bai Wu made an interested face, and he himself thought that his price did not exceed a couple of yuan. The sly fat guy offers him not a wine glass about some garbage. But Bai Wu came up with something and thought, "Wait a minute, could it be that this fat man does not suspect that he has an antique worth 500,000 yuan? Apologizing to the man, he said that he thinks that buying antiques is an interesting thing. This porcelain is also not bad, but he is not interested in it. However, he was very, very interested in this wine glass. The man immediately changed his face and asked if he really liked this bronze glass. He has a very sharp eye. It's not a bad antique. He bought it here in China for 8,000. If he really wants it, then he can sell it to him at the original price, no more, no less. So, how about this? Bai Wu has already evaluated this glass with his new ability and estimated it at 500,000 yuan, and even more. He thought that 8,000 is nothing compared to the real price of this glass. This fat guy does not even suspect anything about the real value of this bronze glass. What is the possibility that he knows about the real value of this glass? It seemed that 0%. Bai Wu thought that, of course, the percentage of success is on top, and what he has on his mind is generally on his side. What if he pretends to be a beggar novice now? Then he thinks that he will drop him the price regardless of what offer he makes. It will not affect him in any way as long as he knows the lowest price. If he uses his new ability, then he can find out the lower price. And he asked, "What is the chance of getting this glass for 4,000? It seemed to him that 100%. Bai Wu was very surprised and thought, "Is it really 100% for 4,000? What about 2,000 then?" For 2,000, success showed the same 100%, and even for 1,000 yuan. After a while, when Bai Wu had gone through enough options, he thought, "Okay, don't be so greedy. 2,000 is also a good price." He turned to the man and said that 8,000 was too much for him. He asked the man if he could drop the price a little for him. The man said that in fact, 8,000 was not too expensive for such a high-quality antique. With his keen eyes, he can give him a chance to bid. The man himself thought that such garbage costs only 10 yuan. It turns out that it's so easy to make money on this. Bai Wu, without thinking twice, said 2,000. The man was surprised and thought that this kid cut the price too much. For 2,000, which is also profitable. Bai Wu asked him if he wanted to sell this glass to him for 2,000. The man exhaled and said that it was only 2,000. In general, he received 2 items worth 8,000, and all the others were sold to a beautiful girl yesterday. After that, Bai paid for his goods. When Bai had already gone far enough, the man was very happy and said that items that cost a couple of yuan were sold for 1,000. It's so easy to sell trash if you display it as an antique. Some newbie still wants to learn how to earn. What kind of stupid idiot is he? Thanks to him, he earned as much as 2,000, and yesterday the girl bought an old thermos from him for 9,000. And today, this kid bought a bronze wine glass for 2,000. Buying is not as good as selling. How easy it is to make money. The man who was sitting next to him asked him what he was proud of. After that, he turned to this man whose name is Lao Wang and asked him, "Wasn't this the girl who sold her thermos yesterday? Looks like he's in trouble." Lao Wang was scared but still said he didn't care about it. When the girl approached him, he told her that, unfortunately, this shop is a small business. So, as soon as the item is sold, they do not provide a refund. But the girl, it turns out, did not come for this at all. She asked what was missing. Why is he already gone? Lao Wang asked her what it is. The girl said that there was a bronze wine glass here yesterday. Where is it now? She's going to pay 10,000 for it, not even 50,000. Hearing such a big price, Lao Wang was very surprised and asked her how much she said. Bai Wu thought, is this bronze glass really so valuable? But wait, that guy couldn't have known about it, could he? This girl wondered if this fat man was so stunned that he was just looking at her. Then she told him that if he was not satisfied with the price she offered, then she could increase it. And she asked him, "How about 60,000? Would you sell her this glass? Is it still not enough for him? Then how about 70,000 and 80,000? The girl was already losing patience and asked him if he could hear her at all. Lao Wang sobbed because he was so fooled and said that an inexperienced goose plucked the old tail. His 80,000 are missing. His friend who was sitting next to him laughed at him and said that he had never deceived anyone. And now looking at him, so many ideas are born in his head. This garbage, it turns out, can be sold for a few 1,000 yuan. Lao Wang asked the girl, what if for 100,000? The girl said that it was great. She agreed to 100,000. Hearing this, Lao Wang fainted. A man who was sitting next to him told the girl that he should let her tell him something. Lao Wang had just sold that bronze glass she was looking for. And does she know how much he sold it for? 2,000 yuan. He thought it was just junk that cost a few yuan, the girl asked. Did he really sell it? Then Lao Wang got up and told her to stop because he would be back soon. But then screams were heard. Someone asked, "Is it really 300,000? This kid is so lucky. A bronze wine glass that costs 300,000. Then Van was laying. His neighbor turned and told him that they were talking about some kind of bronze glass there. Is it by chance the same glass that he just sold for a penny? The girl thought it was another problem, but Bai Wu refused to sell this glass for 300,000. Then he was asked if so, then maybe for 350,000. The old man told him that 400,000 and no more. Bai Wu was about to put away this glass when the old man stopped him and told him not to hurry. Bai Wu thought that this old man was a real expert. He would be difficult to deal with. I asked him, "What about 500, 1,000? The old man smiled at him and said that the younger generation at this time is so extraordinary. He's willing to pay the price. While Wang was completely desperate, he said, "As many as 500,000. The man standing next to him grabbed his hand and said, "Is Lao Wang here too?" He heard that this jug was bought at the nearest shop. He does not know how much he bought it for, but he is sure that the seller has already regretted a lot. He asked Lao Wang what was wrong with his face. Did he really sell it? Is it really possible that the unique Lao Wang with many years of experience sold such a thing? Then this girl appeared and said that she was offering 550,000 for this glass. Bai Wu, noticing this girl, thought that the girl with white skin and long legs was a beauty. She appeared like Miss Kai and Jean, a straight goddess of luck. But he wouldn't test her patience. Of course, she has the ability to see the percentage of success. He won't abuse it. The girl thought. What was he staring at like that? Apparently, there was something wrong here. She needed this glass of wine at all costs, otherwise, her grandfather would never forgive her. Bia looked at the glass and thought. Did she really want to buy this bronze glass too? Maybe he also wants to resell it, only for an even more expensive price. It made him think. Then he saw the man from whom he bought this glass, who was summoned by Lao Wang and waved to him. He told him that he had also come to buy a bronze glass from him for 2,000. It turns out that it costs more than 500,000 yuan. Everyone started whispering around, asking if it really wasn't Lao Wang. Someone else said that even a resourceful Lao Wang can be fooled. Did he sell this glass for only 2,000? Next time, maybe he will also learn how to run a successful business. The girl could not stand it anymore and once again asked, By what, for 550,000, would he sell her that glass? Then the old man intervened and asked the girl for forgiveness, saying that he was the first. The girl told him that, in fact, he had not agreed with him. The old man thought, It was a girl, why does she remind me of someone so annoying? And they both stared at it. Bai Wu said that it wasn't that he didn't want to sell this jug, but wouldn't it be great if they agreed among themselves first? The girl thought, Whoever has a higher price, won. These are the rules of the antique market. He's really a fool if he doesn't understand the obvious things. After that, the two began to bargain. The old man offered 560,000. The girl offered 570,000. When the man wanted to offer 700,000, he stopped and asked the girl if she knew Lao Gia. The girl said that he was her grandfather and asked what he had. The old man laughed and said that the water had spilled into the dragon temple. He was his old friend. He asked her to buy the bronze glass. His name is Lai Weigo, just like his grandfather. He is a professor in the history department at Hanji University. The girl said that her grandfather talked about him very often. Lai Weigo asked her, By the way, how is he doing there? The girl said he was fine. He even runs in the morning. But they were interrupted by Bayam, who asked them if they would buy this glass or not. The girl looked at him menacingly and said that she would. She turned to Grandpa Li and told him to go first. If he has free time, he can meet her grandfather and have tea. She will personally drive him to her grandfather. Then Bai Wu's message came that 600,000 yuan had been credited to him. He thought that even though there was a small mistake in the translation, he still turned out to be in a big plus. To become a billionaire the day before, he can already carry the title of Master of Antiques. Maybe they should try to hook up with her and ask the girl to give him her number. He will add it to WeChat. The girl was confused, and then Bai Wu told her that she looked like a person who was interested in antiques. If he had something interesting, he could write to her. The girl told him that it was enough to fool around, and she thought that this was not the case with him. Bai said she was a rich girl. The girl was embarrassed and asked him what he was allowing himself, and she thought it was very close to failure. Luck? Does he really think that he is blessed by the goddess of luck? She told him that he was audacious, being older than her and thinking he could talk to her that way. Then Bai Wu wondered about the probability that she is older than him. After contemplating it, he concluded that the probability was 0%. He considered that she really had something to be proud of, yet he had the ability to see the percentage of success granted to him by some cosmic force. With this ability, he could gain her trust. He then thought about the probability that she is currently 20 years old, and he was given that this is 100%. Bai Wu thought that these girls are 20 years old and he is the same age, but his birthday is September 30th. He began sorting through the months to find out when she was born. October, November, December didn't fit. Bai Wu wondered if she might be younger than him. Could it be a coincidence that she has the same birth date as him? The thought seemed to cross his mind that maybe she was born on the same date. After contemplating, he realized that the difference was only a minute from his birthday. He thought about the possibility that she wanted him to call her big sister, but he didn't think that was going to happen. The girl turned away, and Bai Wu told her not to worry and that he was just lost in thought. He tried to surprise her by guessing her birth date accurately. The girl was shocked and asked how he found out. Bai Wu asked her again how he knew, hinting that he had read everything. The girl thought he might be another stalker with a terrible act, and she turned away again, saying she would think about it. Bai Wu was determined to impress her further. He guessed her birth date once more, stating that she was born on September 30th at 15:30. The girl was even more surprised and asked him what he had just said. A crowd gathered around them, questioning the possibility and calling him a psychic or luckiest person since the 21st century. An elderly man wasn't surprised and mentioned that he often saw guys spying on young girls. Insults rained down on Bai Wu, who was perplexed by how it all turned out despite his detailed explanations. He stopped the girl again and told her that she was born earlier than 1530, which means it was 1524. He continued to say that she was born on September 30th at 15:30 and 36 seconds. The girl couldn't believe it and called her mother to confirm. Her mother verified that she was born around 15:30 on September 30th. The call ended with her mother calling her by her name, Ching Ching, and asking her what she had forgotten. Ching Ching tried to whisper to her mother, asking if she wasn't born in 1524. Her mom asked her to stop because she didn't remember exactly, and she was going to check the birth certificate. After 3 minutes of intense waiting, her mom replied to Ching Ching that she was indeed born in 1524 and 36 seconds. Ching Ching asked her daughter how she found out about it, turning to Bai Wu and waiting for his answer. Bai Wu told her that it must be quite interesting how he knew all of this. Right then, Ching Ching, with a touch of annoyance, turned away from him and said she wasn't interested at all and that he shouldn't waste her time. Bai Wu interrupted Ching Ching and told her not to get nervous because he guessed it correctly. Ching Ching accused him of just making guesses after he claimed to know it exactly down to the second. She thought he must think she's foolish. Bai Wu insisted that he was correct and said that he could calm her down by explaining how he found the answer. Ching Ching took a step back and questioned whether he was going to tell her another lie. Bai Wu referred to her as a goddess girl and defended the authenticity of psychics, mentioning that not all of them are charlatans. He asked if she had seen him before and confirmed that if his guesses were right, she was wearing black panties today. Ching Ching was embarrassed and told him to shut up. Bai Wu mused that she probably didn't have a boyfriend, and he was sure of it. Ching Ching couldn't bear it and asked him why he was staring at her like that and told him to leave her alone. Bai Wu thought that if his assumption was correct, Ching Ching intentionally avoids relationships with men and that it was a bad sign. Ching Ching was visibly shaken and questioned what he had just said. Bai Wu insisted she had understood it perfectly, and Ching Ching grabbed his hand, urging him to follow her. She led him into a corner, pressed him against the wall, and demanded that he tell her everything about how he knew all this. Bai Wu remained composed and told her that he had guessed it. Ching Ching expressed disbelief, saying it was impossible. She challenged him to prove it by guessing the location of her 3 moles based purely on calculations. Bai Wu added Ching Ching as a friend and assured her that if he found anything interesting, he would contact her and that she could reach out to him too. They bid each other farewell. Bai Wu pondered the fact that using his ability to see success rates to recognize people's games felt cliched. However, he hadn't expected to meet such a beautiful girl here and test his ability on her. He noticed the old man he was planning to sell the glass to and wondered if the old man was on the phone. Bai Wu wondered about the probability that Ching Ching was looking for a home, and the success rate was 0%. This surprised Bai Wu, and he thought about how the success rate had changed, now at 20%. He wondered if he had truly found Ching Ching or not. He considered the possibility that their acquaintance was somehow preordained by fate. Bai Wu then had another thought and asked what the chance was that the old man was communicating with someone from the Ching Ching family. The success rate was 100%. Deciding to take action, he messaged Ching Ching, offering to tell her fortune again for 600,000 yuan. He hinted that her secret seemed to be related to antiques, and that it seemed her family already knew about him. Ching Ching was surprised and texted back, asking what he meant. Bai Wu wondered about the chances of Ching Ching's parents calling her within the next half hour, which were 100%. He considered if the call might come in 15 or 5 minutes, and the success rate remained 100%. He messaged her that he had done a little fortune-telling for her and congratulated her, saying her parents would contact her within 5 minutes. Just as Bai Wu predicted, Ching Ching's mom called and urged her to come home quickly. They wanted to ask her something. Bai Wu knew that he would have to explain everything. Of course, parents come before anything else. It seemed that ever since he left his home and gained the ability to see the percentage of success, his world had changed significantly. However, he still didn't have a beautiful girlfriend. Then, his phone rang, and he was surprised to the point of almost dropping it. It was his mother calling him. Bai Wu picked up the phone and asked her why she had called him so suddenly if something had really happened. It turned out that his mom had set up a blind date for him. Bai Wu asked his mother if she was serious about this. He stated that he wouldn't go anywhere for at least 20 years, until 2015. By 8:15 p.m., Bai Wu was already sitting in the cafe. He looked at a picture of the girl who was supposed to come on a blind date with him. He thought it was strange. Such a beautiful girl probably had no shortage of suitors, so why would she agree to a blind date? Then, a woman walked into the cafe, followed by Ching Ching. Bai Wu couldn't believe it. Could this be Ching Ching? Why was she here? He considered the chance that this girl was familiar with Ching Ching, and the success rate was 100%. Bai Wu was taken aback and thought about how these two plots were intertwining, one trying to break off the relationship and the other trying to maintain it. The woman noticed Bai Wu and pulled her hand away from Ching Ching, who seemed very upset. Ching Ching was crying out of anger. Even Bai Wu was startled by this situation. He realized that Ching Ching's expression was murderous. The girl introduced herself as Muir and confirmed Bai Wu's identity. She thought he was a very nice person and offered to meet him directly. Ching Ching was crying harder than ever. Bai Wu, noticing this, remarked that something seemed wrong. Muir asked him if he really didn't like her, and Bai Wu replied that it wasn't about that. Everything was fine, but he felt that something was off. He thought that Muir appeared to be using him to break Ching Ching's heart. The chance of success was 100%. Although Bai Wu would say he hadn't taken advantage of the situation himself, he felt that what happened was most likely due to compassion. If it weren't for his ability, and his familiarity with Ching Ching, he wouldn't have been able to tell if Muir's feelings were genuine. Muir pushed him away after the kiss, and as she saw Ching Ching, who was visibly upset and about to leave, she suggested that they go. Bai Wu hadn't fully processed the situation after the kiss and was a bit confused, but he asked Muir where they were going. Muir replied that they were going to her house to meet her parents, though there were tears in her eyes. Bai Wu thought that Muir didn't seem happy at all. Even if she wasn't forcing herself, he felt that she might be using him to hurt Ching Ching. The chance of success in this assumption was 100%. Though Bai Wu would argue that he didn't take advantage of the opportunity himself, it seemed likely that Muir was using him as a shield against her own feelings. If it weren't for his ability and knowledge of Ching Ching, he wouldn't have been able to discern the sincerity of Muir's emotions. When they arrived at Muir's home, she entered the house and called out to her parents. A displeased mother entered the room, expressing her annoyance at Muir going on yet another blind date, and wondering who Muir had brought this time. Muir told her mother that this was her new boyfriend, and his name was Bai Wu. Bai Wu was trembling with fear as he introduced himself, stammering out his name as Bai. He reflected that he had felt like he was dragged here against his will and that everything happening seemed like a scene out of a cliched scenario where the hero rescues the beautiful girl. But it wasn't a movie, and his fear was real. Muir's mother quickly calmed down, putting on a happy face and concealing the broom behind her back. She expressed her joy and asked her daughter why she hadn't mentioned having a boyfriend before. From the other room, shouting could be heard, making Bai Wu even more frightened. He worried if someone had a knife or if there was some danger. Muir's father emerged from the room and grabbed Bai Wu's hand, explaining that they knew each other since high school. He gestured for Bai Wu to go along with the story. Mu nudged Bai Wu and mentioned that they had been together in high school, their relationship breaking up due to Bai Wu's poor grades. They unexpectedly reconnected on this blind date. The mother was pleased with this explanation, regretting that a mere academic reason had caused their breakup. Mu's father pulled Bai Wu aside, tapped his shoulder, and told him to sit down for a talk. He assured them that he and his wife were preparing fruit and left the room. Bai Wu inquired if Mu was really their daughter, and his ability confirmed it with a 100% success rate. They all shared a laugh. The mother brought in fruit, but the father stopped her, saying they should leave the two alone. He apologized for the intrusion and assured them that they could continue their conversation while he and his wife prepared a delicious meal. Mu explained that her parents had been subtly hinting for her to find a boyfriend, and it seemed they were quite concerned about her future. Bai Wu had a realization. He was probably the first guy she had brought home in a long time. Her parents had been outside the door, listening. The father expressed his frustration, wondering why things hadn't progressed until now. He questioned if Bai Wu had missed the special sign he had shown him. The mother exclaimed, but the father hushed her, saying they shouldn't be overheard. Bai Wu contemplated the situation, thinking that he hadn't completely understood it yet. He wanted to test something, so he turned to Mu. However, she seemed afraid and jumped away from him, pressing herself against the wall. Bai Wu suggested they sit down and talk. Mu apologized, explaining that she needed some time to adjust to their new relationship. Bai Wu asked if the fact that he was getting closer made her nervous. He wondered if he should keep his distance. He walked away, and Mu took a step forward, thanking him and saying that it wasn't necessary for him to keep his distance. She reassured him that she could get used to it. Bai Wu thought that she was undeniably beautiful. He contemplated the probability of making her feel comfortable by holding her hand, which was 80%. He then inquired about hugging her, 76% success rate, and later about kissing her, 59% success rate. He was surprised at how the probabilities were lowering, leading him to wonder if he was really that lucky. However, he reminded himself not to deceive himself. This girl might just be using him to deceive her parents. He realized that he was physically and mentally healthy, handsome, intelligent, and still single. He pondered what he should do in this situation. He concluded that, above all, Mu needed to be honest with herself. Bai Wu attempted to reach out and take Mu's hand, but he slipped and fell. Suddenly, Mu's parents burst into the room. Her father seemed to have forgotten about the knife and asked what had happened. He checked on Mu, asking if she was okay. Seeing Bai Wu on the floor, he wondered if he was alright too. Mu's mother intervened, explaining that everything was fine and that her husband was just worried about their daughter. She led him out of the room. Bai Wu was still sitting on the floor, frightened and confused. He couldn't understand why he had been sent flying with a cleaver. Taking a deep breath, Bai Wu tried to make sense of the situation. He hadn't done anything yet to deserve this, and he felt like he was being pushed into this scenario against his will. He pondered the unexpected turn of events, wondering why he was being chased with a cleaver when he hadn't even done anything yet. His confusion grew when he heard Mu's parents arguing. The wife slapped her husband and chastised him for not recognizing that Bai Wu was their daughter's real boyfriend. She called him crazy and questioned why he was wandering around with a kitchen knife. Mu's father defended his concerns, explaining that even if Bai Wu had a kind heart, they couldn't blindly trust their daughter's judgment. He highlighted their daughter's beauty as a reason for caution. Bai Wu started considering how he could possibly make his way into the role of Mu's boyfriend, realizing that things were not going according to any kind of script he could have anticipated. Mu approached Bai Wu and asked if he was okay. Bai Wu thought about the role he was playing and how much longer he would have to maintain it. He stood up and suggested that they should discuss the matter later. Mu was frustrated and asked if he was truly sorry. Bai Wu remained resolute, questioning whether she truly believed that she could hide everything from her parents with this charade. He emphasized that her parents were showing concern because they cared about her, and that deceiving them was not the solution. He advised her that the only way to address the issue was through open communication with her parents. Following his decision to leave, Muir grabbed his arm and implored him to stay, asking for his help just this once. Bai Wu smirked, indicating that he understood the situation. As her parents were still outside the door, they rushed into the room. Muir's father asked what was happening, and her mother exclaimed that the young couple was fighting because of Bai Wu, finding it quite unusual. The father questioned if the fight was due to Bai Wu flying at them with a knife. They rushed Muir and Bai Wu to their room, hoping to end the conflict. As they reached the exit, Bai Wu thought about how his presence had only caused trouble and pain. He began to put on his shoes, but Muir's mother shouted for him to stop. She apologized, saying she had accidentally spilled soup on his shoe. Muir asked why her mother had brought the soup there instead of keeping it in the kitchen. Her father added that her carelessness had led to Bai Wu's shoes being wet, and they wondered how he would get home. Her mother suggested that he could stay. Bai Wu realized that he had already explained everything to Muir and that her actions would depend on her now. Her father called out to him, asking if he could spend the night with them. Muir intervened, explaining that Bai Wu needed to visit the hospital to see his grandmother's niece. Bai Wu left, slamming the door behind him. Outside, the parents debated and tried to make sense of Bai Wu's strange explanation about his grandmother's niece's son. Later that evening, Bai Wu lay in his bed, contemplating how easy it had become to earn money. He thought about visiting the antique shop the next day. As Bai Wu approached the shop, Lao Wang was busy polishing his antiques. He mentioned that he had suffered losses yesterday due to a newcomer, and had embarrassed himself. Seeing a shadow approach, he raised his head, ready to greet his visitor. It turned out to be Bai Wu, who told him he could replenish his goods. Bai Wu then asked if Lao Wang had anything interesting to offer. Lao Wang exclaimed what a coincidence it was that Lao Wang arrived on time once again. I inquired about his purpose for visiting, and he mentioned that this time he had something unusual prepared, something that could potentially earn him a significant amount of money if sold. Advising him to reveal it, Lao Wang complied. He proceeded to show me the items he had brought, explaining that he had acquired them from the nearest village. Wu, intrigued, questioned the cost, and Lao Wang quoted a price of 50,000 for the entire set. Little did I know that Lao Wang had spoken with the villagers and learned a fascinating story. Apparently, a family in the village had inherited these items from Lai Shimon during the late Sui dynasty, implying a substantial fortune tied to these pieces. Lao Wang emphasized the exceptional value of the porcelain. However, his excitement waned as he observed my expression. My apparent happiness prompted me to ask whether it was truly Tang's Sakai porcelain. Lao Wang responded affirmatively, stating that it was highly likely. He elaborated on the technique, carving, texture, and color, suggesting that it was crafted according to the Tang Sanketsai method. He acknowledged that I was his best customer. Nonetheless, I seemed to be disregarding his advice. Inquiring about the price I would consider, I questioned him further about the valuation. Lao Wang mentioned 60,000 as an alternative, which surprised me. I questioned whether it was truly 60,000 and not 1,000, wondering about his sudden generosity. I pondered whether the porcelain was genuinely worth 60,000, believing it to be of excellent quality. Despite the option of acquiring similar items from a porcelain factory, I seemed to miss the point Lao Wang was making. He attempted to correct my misconception, but I cut him off, patting his shoulder, and asserted that 60,000 was inadequate. My empathetic response touched Lao Wang, leading him to admit that my words resonated with him. In this exchange, I expressed my reluctance to let a kind person suffer and promised to consider my price. Reflecting on the porcelain's authenticity, I speculated that the pieces might contain an original among them, potentially significantly valuable. Calculating the probabilities, I thought about the worth, believing it could be worth at least $1 million. With these thoughts in mind, I turned to Lao Wang, seeking clarity on the price for the whole set. His laughter indicated his satisfaction, and he presented a friendly offer of 600,000. My reaction confirmed his success, and I engaged in negotiation, inquiring if he would accept 600,000. He suggested that if this was too steep, he could provide a discount, reducing the cost to 500,000. Ultimately, I agreed, assuring him that the transaction would occur promptly through a money transfer. As I completed the payment, I secured the entire set and hastened away. Lao Wang questioned whether this porcelain was truly a fake, but he held firm in his belief, considering the authenticity of his purchase. He had acquired the set from Tang San Kai's warehouse in a mountain village. He mused on the younger generation's misconceptions and their misguided confidence in their abilities. A pink jeep interrupted his thoughts as it pulled up beside him. A girl emerged from the vehicle, approaching Lao Wang. She questioned him about the fake tan sands he had sold her the previous night for 15,000, and whether he would buy them back for 1 million. Lao Wang was taken aback, bewildered by the sudden offer. The girl explained that the porcelain set held great sentimental value to her grandfather, making a heartfelt plea for its return. Lao Wang found himself in a dilemma, uncertain of how to respond. He expressed regret that he had already sold the set to someone else just a short while ago. Another person sitting nearby confirmed this fact, acknowledging that Lao Wang had indeed sold a similar set. Expressing his envy for Lao Wang's fortunate transaction, the bystander wished he could experience a similar stroke of luck. Lao Wang advised him to be patient, highlighting the role luck played in such situations. The girl, disheartened by the situation, expressed her frustration, admitting that she had placed her grandfather's cherished porcelain on the wrong shelf, unaware of its significance. Fearing her grandfather's reaction upon discovering the mistake, she lamented her situation, highlighting the importance of the porcelain to her family. Lao Wang attempted to comfort the upset girl, suggesting that even if the porcelain was her grandfather's favorite, it was still a fake. He advised her to apologize to her grandfather, assuring her that the problem could be resolved. However, her response was passionate and loud, questioning who had declared the porcelain as fake. She revealed that one of the pieces was genuine Tang San site porcelain, inherited from her ancestor. She indicated that her grandfather had not sold it, and that she had already offered 10 million for its return. A friend of Lao Wang's chuckled, remarking on his extraordinary luck. He recalled an incident where Lao Wang had sold a bronze glass of wine for 600,000 that was actually worth 2,000. The friend found it amusing that Lao Wang had sold a Tang Sankat side piece worth 10 million for 500,000. He playfully remarked on Lao Wang's penchant for pleasing people. The girl demanded to know the whereabouts of the man who had bought the porcelain from Lao Wang. Lao Wang informed her that the buyer had gone to the other side of Gaian Pavilion. Meanwhile, Bai, another individual, had moved on to a different setting. He was in the company of an old man who was appraising the porcelain pieces. The old man admired the porcelain's excellent condition, its remarkable gloss, and stunning appearance. He even mentioned owning a similar statuette that was over 1,000 years old. While Bai had hoped to sell it to him, the old man's evaluation left Bai uncertain of making a sale. As Bai sipped his tea, he pondered the odds that the Tang Sakai porcelain set could belong to the old man. The authenticity of his claims seemed high, considering the piece's historical significance from the Tang dynasty. However, Bai questioned whether the old man truly possessed this particular Tang Sakai porcelain. He concluded that the probability was not in favor of the old man owning it. Bai reassured himself that the chances of the porcelain being stolen by Lao Wang were extremely low, dismissing the idea. Then Bai entertained the thought that perhaps the old man's granddaughter had sold the porcelain to Lao Wang. This assumption seemed more likely, even reaching a probability of 100% in his mind. Bai concluded that the old man's granddaughter was not sensible, leading him to question whether the girl was associated with Mr. Qi, who also dealt in inexpensive porcelain. Bai's thoughts turned to the auction value of Tang San porcelain, which typically sold for around 12 million. The old man made an offer of 9 million to Bai, who considered the proposition. Evaluating his own position as a newcomer in the world of antiques, Bai recognized that 9 million was a substantial amount. He accepted the offer, sealing the deal. The old man provided his business card and encouraged Bai to contact him for any future discoveries. With the deal concluded, Bai left the old man's house, greeted by the arrival of his granddaughter in a pink jeep. Reflecting on her haste, Bai commented on her recklessness and predicted that she might fall. This prediction seemed to have a probability of 100% in his mind. Despite his concerns, she denied any risk. However, she did indeed stumble on a stone, almost falling. Bai managed to catch her, realizing that his prediction had come true. Onlookers gathered, expressing surprise at the scene. Some criticized their behavior as lacking in decency. The girl appeared embarrassed and pushed Bai away, demanding that he let her go. Bai reiterated his earlier warning about her recklessness. As he turned to leave, she stopped him, expressing an urgent problem that required his assistance. She handed him her phone, with a message indicating her need for help and gratitude for encountering someone like him. As Bai walked through the streets, he contemplated his newfound wealth and the options it presented. He pondered whether to purchase a car or a house. In the midst of his thoughts, he encountered Lao Wang again. Lao Wang approached Wu and inquired about the buyer and the sale price of the porcelain. Bai Wu shared that he had sold it to the owner of the pavilion for 9 million. Lao Wang seemed unfazed by the news. Bai Wu found it peculiar that Lao Wang remained so composed, not showing any surprise upon learning about the significant amount of money he had lost. Lao Wang described the owner as a deceitful scoundrel, suggesting they continue their investigation. Meanwhile, Qi Zio glanced into her grandfather's room and noticed him inspecting the porcelain. She mumbled that since he had located his china, she could leave. However, her grandfather's anger flared, calling her foolish and instructing her to face him directly without hiding. He criticized her for seemingly selling his cherished porcelain. The old man stopped her and questioned her unexpected visit. He also wondered if her sudden appearance had something to do with the porcelain he had sold. Qi Zio felt confused and unsure how to explain that not only was she late, but the porcelain had already been sold to her grandfather. She struggled to find the right words. Her grandfather prodded her, asking if something was amiss. Qi Zio tried to dismiss his concerns, but he persisted, observing her behavior. He considered whether it was a deliberate act or a mere coincidence that she sold the porcelain. He also speculated that perhaps it wasn't the same porcelain that she had sold the previous night. The old man encouraged her to wait and reflect. However, Qi Zio panicked and claimed that she urgently needed to go to the hospital due to severe body pain. The old man reacted swiftly, calling her grandmother and urging her to intervene. He feared that he might punish his granddaughter, but her grandmother defended her, expressing discontent with his shouting. Qi Zio took the opportunity to escape, heading to the bathroom. She wondered who managed to sell the porcelain so quickly and how it had nearly caused a problem with her grandfather. She contemplated whether the man who had come out of Gaian Pavilion was the one who had predicted her stumble. Meanwhile, Bai Wu appeared anxious and apprehensive. He surveyed his surroundings, sensing that something might be off with Lao Wang. He speculated whether Lao Wang was upset and might seek revenge by taking his money. Bai Wu found himself considering the probability that Lao Wang intended to deceive him, a thought reinforced by the system's suggestion that Lao Wang wanted to take his money. Despite his initial fear, Bai Wu seemed to regain his composure. He acknowledged the system's reliability in providing the percentage of his success. He paused to retrieve his phone and reflected on the complexities of the antique trade. While it could be profitable, finding valuable items among seemingly ordinary ones was challenging, even with superpowers. Bai Wu credited Qi Zio's security with his recent successes. He realized that wealth was not without its difficulties, and he mused on the peculiar encounters he had with the girls he met lately. Considering his safety, he decided not to provoke them further. He contemplated the possibilities and potential consequences of his actions. Bai Wu found himself intrigued by the idea of what might happen if he didn't miss opportunities like the one he just encountered. He believed that with the system's information about the high probability of non-fake antiques appearing on the market tomorrow, he could continue speculating on antiques and potentially earn a daily income of 1 million. Bai Wu appreciated his newfound wealth and acknowledged the need to spend it wisely. He contemplated purchasing a car but realized he could reach the dealership from his current location. As he joined the line for the bus, he noticed Qi Zio in the queue. He wondered why she was there. Soon after, he received a message from her explaining her misfortune. She had mistakenly sold her grandfather a statuette instead of the intended product. Her grandfather's anger had left her too afraid to drive. Bai Wu thought, "Is she really that stupid?" Here he was in the crowd, minding his own business, when he saw some man and thought, "This guy looks very suspicious. Is he a thief?" The chance of this was 50%. This man carefully approached the girl, and Bai Wu understood, and the system told him that the chance that he is a bus pickpocket is 100%. He wrote to her that the guy in the black jacket next to her is very shady, and she should be careful. The girl immediately raised her head, turned around, and saw Bai Wu, wondering what he was doing here. She thought to herself, "You shouldn't expect anything good from him." Bai Wu texted her that the man was croaking again, and Bai Wu replied to her that she is an ungrateful person who is not able to distinguish a good person from a bad one. As they waited, a minibus arrived, and they announced that passengers could get on the bus. Then this man crept up to the girl again and touched her, but the girl felt it and turned around. The man apologized to her and said that he did not intentionally push her, just someone from behind. She resumed looking at her phone and said, "Okay, bye." Watching all this, Bai Wu thought that this girl was not listening to him at all. Had this man already started acting? Didn't the girl understand anything at all? Then Bai Wu couldn't stand it and rushed to her aid, but the girl herself was not a blunder. She immediately disarmed the man using a technique and threw him on the road. People were alarmed and asked what was going on. The girl explained that he wanted to possess her. Bai Wu looked scared and thought, "Is she also a martial artist?" The girl looked at Bai Wu and wondered why he was interfering again. Maybe he just wanted to help her, though there's definitely something wrong here. But Bai Wu had already rushed to the leak and thought that he was finished. It seemed that this strong girl was the same person who sold the Sansonaire that he bought. He needed to get away from this girl as soon as possible. He would need a couple of minutes to get to the car dealership, but the system said it would be 0% for him. He got even more scared and thought, "What happened? Why can't this bus get to the dealership in a couple of minutes? Why am I so unlucky?" Bai Wu, getting on the bus, thought that today was some kind of unlucky day. But was it possible that it's all because of traffic jams? Is it possible that a traffic accident will occur? But the system said traffic jams were 0%, and crashes were also 0%. But why did he have such a bad feeling? He walked away from the bus and wondered if there could be a criminal inside. The chance that the bus will be hijacked is 0%. The chance that there will be hostages on the bus is 0%. And the chance that there will be a fire on the bus is 100%. The chance that there is a criminal on the bus now is 100%. Bai Wu grabbed his head and thought, "What should he do now? There is a criminal on the bus, and he wants to set it on fire. What should he do? If he carries out his plan, a lot of people may suffer. He wants to prevent it, but he's not sure he can handle it. He doesn't have time. He needs to call the police urgently." He took out his phone and called the police, saying he wanted to inform them that there was a criminal on the bus who wanted to set it on fire. The police asked him if he could tell them his location. Bai Wu whispered to them that the bus number 666 stops near the antique market and goes to the car market, and there are too many people on the bus. He had mixed up with the crowd. The police said that they will mark this call as an emergency. Bai Wu said yes and asked them to hurry up because the criminal had 8 or 9 liters of gasoline, and he could set everything on fire at any moment. Then the police asked him if he could prove it. Bai Wu thought that if he couldn't prove it, he would be severely punished for providing false information. Then he was bombarded with questions from the policeman. How did he know that the criminal would set fire to the bus? Where did he get the information about the number of liters of gasoline? And how did he know that the bus would stop at this particular location? Bai Wu's head began to boil, and he thought there was no way he could prove it. Why couldn't they just believe him? Then he saw that the bus was about to leave, and he thought that they wouldn't have time to help if there were no police nearby. He decided he should stop the criminal by any means necessary. He looked at Chi Zio and thought, "Is she really driving the bus too?" Well, now was not the time to think about it. The most important thing was to save people. Bai Wu suddenly remembered how she had neutralized that man and thought that at least this girl was also dangerous. Now, they needed to think about how to catch the criminal. The police called him back and said that, by lucky chance, their police officer who was on vacation was on this bus. If he discovered the culprit, then no hasty action should be taken. Hearing this, Bai Wu was very happy and thought that maybe the police were here. He squinted at Chi Zio and thought that a policeman wouldn't necessarily know what a criminal looks like either, but he had an idea. He wondered, what is the chance that the criminal is sitting now? The chance that the criminal is sitting is 100%. The chance that the criminal is sitting in the front seats is equal to 0%, but the chance that the criminal is sitting in the back is 100%. After that, Bai Wu began to make his way to the back seats. Then he looked at Chi Zio and wondered why she was following him. But he didn't have time for games, he needed to find the culprit. It would be difficult to carry 8 or 9 liters of gasoline onto the bus. Most likely, he has a backpack with him. Then he noticed a man who was all dirty and unshaven and was holding a backpack on his lap. Bai Wu thought that maybe it was him. The man turned away from him and tightened his grip on his backpack. Bai Wu thought that he must have guessed right. He shouldn't have behaved so suspiciously. This guy seemed too nervous, and he was clutching his backpack tightly. But what should he do? Wait or pounce on him while there is an opportunity? Bai Wu was pondering his next move. Then Chi Zio grabbed him by the shoulder and told him to hide. Bai Wu thought that he was very sorry, but he couldn't play games right now. A police officer was watching him. It was 100% certain. After which, he started shouting that he was not mistaken. Is she really the aggressive girl from the airport? She should stop following him. He hadn't done anything to her. In this way, Bai Wu tried to attract attention and thought that now was a good time to attract the attention of the officers and bring this guy to the surface. It was an excellent opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It needed to be done now. But then Chi Zio told him to save himself. Why didn't he run? After that, the girl bumped into him, but Bai Wu managed to duck, saying it was just a misunderstanding. Chi Zio grabbed the man's backpack, and it opened. The man got angry and asked what she was allowing herself. The enraged man stood up. Bai Wu was really scared and thought that everything had happened so quickly. But then, Chi Zio hit the man right in the face, finally neutralizing him. She took out her handcuffs and said that the police were on their way. He was under arrest. She picked up one of the bottles from the man, sniffed it, and confirmed that it was indeed gasoline. Bai Wu was very surprised and thought that she was also a police officer. He needed to get out of there right away. All the passengers got off the bus, and Bai Wu tried to leave quietly. Chi Zio exhaled and said that finally, grabbing Bai Wu by the shoulder, she mentioned that she had heard that he was the one who alerted the police. Bai Wu thought that she was irritating him. Why did she stop pursuing him all of a sudden? He wouldn't be able to explain to her how he found out about it. They needed to come up with something. Turning to her, he said that he would tell her the truth. The monk he met in the mountains told him about it. But she looked like she didn't believe him, and she should think about what happened earlier. Chi Zio thought. Why is his crow's beak talking such nonsense? Bai Wu clutched his head and thought. What the hell had he just said? As expected, he failed to hold it. Therefore, he needed to get out of here faster. But he was blocked by Chi Zio, who told him to stop talking this nonsense and asked him how he knew. He should tell her about it immediately. Bai Wu was very scared and asked her what to say. Chi Zio asked him if an ordinary citizen somehow knows the information about the arson of the bus, right? Bai Wu pushed her hand away and told her that as a law-abiding citizen, he should have alerted the police. Chi Zio said she didn't really believe it. She pressed him against the wall and told him to remember that when he called, he had not yet boarded the bus, as he was personally acquainted with this criminal. Bai Wu told her that it was just her guess, saying that maybe they could move to a more convenient place where they could have tea and talk, and there he would tell her everything in detail. Bai Wu was even more scared and thought, my God, how insidious she was. This time he's in serious trouble. Mu was also in this place. She asked if it was really Bai Wu. Bai Wu asked her what she was doing there. Chi Zio loosened her grip and asked them what they really knew each other. Muir said her car broke down, and she was taking her to the workshop. Turning to Bai Wu, she asked him what was going on here. She wondered why this situation was like being caught with a mistress, but this was a great chance. He winked at her, then he shouted that it wasn't what she thought. He had nothing to do with her. He began to sob and fell on his knees in front of her. He continued to say, pointing at Chi Zio Zio, that she herself had started to molest him. He doesn't know who she is at all, and he has a girlfriend that he loves very much, so let her stop running after him already. Chi Zio Zio didn't even have time to react as people already began to condemn her. A man in the crowd said that this girl is so beautiful, for what she allows herself, that's just terrible. Another man said he thought this guy had just been caught with another one, let them just look at his face. The woman was horrified and asked if he had changed one of them. What kind of horror is this? The blonde said that such beauties, this guy is a success with girls. Chi Zio Zio asked him. Yes, who is running after him here? Bai Wu turned to Muir and said that she could see she wouldn't let him go. They looked at each other again, and the girl said that he was her boyfriend. Maybe she would stop touching him already. The audience was very focused on this scene. Zio Zio clenched her teeth hard in anger. Bai Wu noticed and thought that more and more people were gathering. Chi Zio Zio didn't wait for any response from Bai Wu and punched him in the gut. Bai Wu started to clear his throat, and Chi Zio Zio passed by his so-called girlfriend and said that he was not interested in him, but she advises to be careful with him. After all, this guy is far from who he pretends to be. After Chi Zio Zio left, Muir turned to Bai Wu and asked him how he was, if everything was all right with him. Bai Wu said that at least for a while, he was able to get rid of this problem. Thanking the girl, Muir said he helped her too, so now they were even. She apologized to him again for that incident. They were watched by Kin the sun and not his nails. She said that it was so decided after all. She won't molest Muir, but this time, he won't get off so easily. They, too, Bai Wu finally bought a car for himself, and now sitting at the wheel, he thought that he was not decisive enough for the appearance of any feelings, and in general, he was confused by the Malone problems. He wouldn't contact them anymore. In the future, he needed to stay away from them and focus on making money. The whole life is just a fiction. He came to the same place again and thought that only the money was real. He got out of the car and thought that he felt this feeling familiar to him from yesterday, the feeling of money. He came to his usual place and asked if Lao Wang was not here. The man who was sitting next to him said that yes, yesterday he told him that he would go to the village for a new product and he'll be gone for a few days. Bai Wu asked what the chance was that he would have a genuine antique. The system said that the success rate would be 100%. Realizing this, Bai Wu exhaled and said, "Well, okay, but will he be able to find antiques today?" The system gave him a success rate of 0%. Bai Wu scratched his head, wondering what this meant. He also thought about the chance of buying an antique on the market, and the system told him that the chance to buy an authentic product was 0%. Bai Wu was puzzled because the data was so different from yesterday. It seemed to him that there were antiques around, but he would not be able to find them without help. However, he decided he could handle it himself. Meanwhile, from around the corner, Ching Ching was watching him. 30 minutes later, he approached the man who was selling the product and, upon inspecting it, realized it was a genuine antique, 100% authentic. He asked the man if he could sell it to him. The man said it cost 3,000, but he could give him a 5% discount. Bai Wu didn't like this offer and countered with a 50% discount. The man smiled and agreed to the 50% discount. Bai Wu thought that the merchant must not know that the goods were real, but he was still puzzled by the system's earlier response. Just then, Ching Ching approached from behind and said that she wanted to purchase the item at its original cost. Bai Wu was surprised to see her there and looked at her in fright, wondering what she was doing. The man was happy to sell to Ching Ching at the original cost and handed her the product. Their way was blocked by Bai Wu, who insisted they shouldn't hurry because he was the first to come there. He offered to pay 10,000 for the item. Ching Ching immediately raised her bid to 30,000. Bai Wu realized that she was intentionally driving up the price, and he exhaled in frustration. He asked Ching Ching, "What if he pays 50,000? She agreed but said she could offer 100,000. Bai Wu realized he couldn't compete with her in this bidding war. Ching Ching seemed determined to outbid him, and Bai Wu turned around, acknowledging her victory. He couldn't keep increasing the price. However, despite the success, the man handed the item to Ching Ching. She examined it, and believed it was indeed from the Ming dynasty. She suspected that the situation was more complicated than it appeared, so she decided to follow Bai Wu. As time passed, Bai Wu couldn't bear it any longer and asked her if she would ever leave him alone. Ching Ching responded by asking if it was forbidden for her to walk on the same road. She followed him everywhere, and seemed determined to outbid him. He had been ready to pay 100,000 for the item, but she offered 200,000. Bai Wu couldn't contain his frustration and asked her if she was intentionally doing this. Ching Ching replied that if he couldn't afford it, it was his problem. She had plenty of money to spend. She approached him and mentioned that he had just turned 20 and dropped out of high school. Bai Wu defended himself, saying that he could already afford a premium car. Ching Ching questioned if he thought it all happened too quickly and asked if he had looked into her background. Bai Wu explained that he had simply been fortunate to find a good income. He never committed crimes. Then Ching Ching asked him if he had any super abilities, or if he was just very lucky. Bai Wu explained that until he was 20, he had nothing. He was an ordinary person with no inheritance. Ching Ching didn't seem interested in his past. She was focused on his current success, determined to outdo him and disrupt his earnings. Ching Ching felt confident and threatened to take away his earnings. Bai Wu retorted, frustrated by her interference, stating that she wouldn't let her do that. Ching Ching grinned, teasing him about whether he would cry if he lost. She knew that she could prevent him from making money today, and she intended to inflate prices intentionally. The great day followed Bai Wu closely, observing his interactions with various sellers. Ching Ching wondered if he was actually going to buy goods from them, but Bai Wu only said goodbye to one of the sellers, leaving Ching Ching perplexed about his intentions. Bai Wu squinted at Ching Ching, considering his options. He asked the system about the probability of success, and it indicated a 100% chance. Bai Wu decided that today he would teach Ching Ching a lesson. He called all the sellers he had spoken to and expressed his interest in buying all their goods. Ching Ching overheard his plan and realized he wanted to buy all the merchandise to prevent her from interfering. She confronted him, suggesting they make deals together. However, Ching Ching intervened and expressed her desire to buy everything from the stalls, going along with Bai Wu's plan to buy up all the goods. Bai Wu believed Ching Ching was going too far and questioned her intentions. Ching Ching asserted that she wanted to buy just like him and was determined to outbid him. She asked the sellers to name the total cost of their goods, offering a 10% surcharge. The sellers hesitated but eventually agreed to provide their contacts for future business. Ching Ching looked at Bai Wu, curious about his reaction. Bai Wu just grinned and walked past her, heading towards the sellers. He received their confirmation that they would cooperate with him. The sellers were pleased with the prospect of making money, and they assured Bai Wu they would uphold the 50-50 agreement they had agreed upon earlier. Bai Wu showed Ching Ching his phone, indicating that he had already secured deals with the sellers. Ching Ching was surprised and visibly upset. She accused Bai Wu of colluding with the sellers from the beginning. Bai Wu admitted he had been looking for cooperative merchants throughout the market. He emphasized that she couldn't take away his earnings. He was in a win-win situation. Despite Ching Ching's frustration, Bai Wu remained confident that she could never deprive him of his earnings. Ching Ching told Bai Wu it was okay but warned him not to be too happy because they would meet again. Bai Wu shouted after her that he wouldn't accompany her. Then he noticed that the system update had started, which made Maya very happy. She wondered if the system update was really thanks to Ching Ching, as Bai Wu had earned a fortune today with her assistance. According to her, she came from a very influential family, and they couldn't compete with each other. Bai Wu thought that there might be some changes in the system after the update, but nothing seemed different at the moment. He believed the changes might become noticeable later. Currently, his strength wasn't sufficient to earn a lot of money, so he needed to expand his social circle. However, he wondered how he could do that, as it would be quite difficult. After leaving the market, Bai Wu was met by a man who greeted him and revealed himself as Mrs. Ching Ching's assistant. He asked Bai Wu to come with him. Bai Wu inquired if Ching Ching still wanted to meet after everything that had happened between them. Bai Wu also speculated whether the man was an assassin or a former Special Forces soldier. The man remained calm and assured him that he was just there to escort him to a social event as an apology for the day's misunderstanding. Bai Wu asked what kind of social event it was, and why did it seem to him that Ching Ching had something bad in mind. On one hand, he considered the risk, but on the other hand, he saw an opportunity to expand his social circle. He decided to go with the man. 1 hour later, Ching Ching met him and expressed surprise that he had come. They entered a building, and Bai Wu stated that he wasn't afraid of anything, even if Ching Ching had invited him with malicious intent. Ching Ching led him to meet her friends, and Bai Wu noticed that there were influential people in the gathering. He felt a bit nervous but tried to keep his composure. Ching Ching noticed his nervousness and anticipated that Bai Wu might make a mistake. Bai Wu realized he needed to stop being nervous to avoid embarrassing himself. He decided to use a mental technique to relax by imagining the guests in a humorous situation, which helped ease his nerves. He then shook hands with all of them and introduced himself as Bai Wu. They sat together at a table, and Ching Ching complimented Bai Wu for quickly finding a common language with the guests. Bai Wu replied that there wasn't much difference between people of different social classes. Ching Ching disagreed, noting that the differences were visible even to the naked eye. A man came on stage and announced that they should proceed to the auction hall for the charity auction, which was about to begin. Bai Wu asked what a charity auction was, and Ching Ching teased him, calling him a redneck and asking if she needed to explain. Bai Wu asserted that he knew what a charity auction was and that he wasn't a redneck. Ching Ching revealed that there was a Ming Dynasty porcelain cup to be auctioned, and she hoped Bai Wu would help evaluate it. She placed the box on the table. Bai Wu asked her to evaluate her antiques and then, while wondering what he would get in return, Ching Ching said she was feeling kind today, so she would let him sell it on her behalf. He wants to make a lot of money, doesn't he? And he also needs to leave a good impression in front of the guests. Manhwa thought that it was true. He needed to earn some reputation among the local guests. This is a great opportunity, he told her. It wouldn't do. He doesn't believe she just wants to help him. Pinkin just spread her hands and said that she really had no malicious intent, but Bai Wu was still tense and thought that it was better not to trust this girl. He is 80% sure that this is a hoax. He looked at the box and thought, let's see if it's a fake. But the system told him that it was a real antique, 100%. This Ming Dynasty piece is authentic. Its approximate price is 12,500,000. Then, Bai Wu thought that maybe something is wrong with the auction itself, but the system told him that the success of the auction is 100%. Bai Wu exhaled and thought that the antiques were real, and everything would be fine with the auction. Then it turns out that he has nothing to worry about. Apparently, he's just thinking too much. Even if Ching Ching decides to throw something, in this case, he has a system. Ching Ching asked him if he agreed. If not, he might forget about her kindness. Bai Wu said he agreed. He loves kindness. After that, the man said that he was already presenting one lot of a charity auction. Bai Wu carried this antique to the man and looked at Ching Ching. It was clear from Ching Ching's face that she was up to something. Bai Wu tensed up a little and thought that looking at her face, you can 100% understand that she is up to something bad. The man announced that the representative of the lot is Bai Wu. Bai Wu told himself that he just needed to stop thinking about the bad. After all, he has authentic antiques in his hands, and its success rate is 100%. He needs to find out what tricks she wants to throw out. After that, he took the place of that man and greeted all the guests, saying that his name was Bai Wu, and he's glad to see them all here. He would like to present his lot to them, but when he opened the box, he saw that it was not antiques but toilet paper. One of the guests was very surprised and asked if he had just auctioned a roll of toilet paper. The elderly man chuckled and said that the organizers had done a good job on the whole atmosphere. Bai Wu was at a loss. He thought that he knew that there was clearly something wrong. Is he so scared that he can't even move? But he calculated everything. There was definitely an antique, 100%. Then he remembered that Ching Ching had told him that her earring had fallen right next to his foot and asked him to help get it out. While Bai Wu was picking up her earring, Ching Ching changed the boxes, but it was precisely at that moment that she switched them. He squinted at her and thought she had gone too far. The man who was the host of this auction asked him if by any chance he was in a hurry to go to the toilet. He had just grabbed half a roll of toilet paper. Ching Ching watched this picture contentedly, and thought that this time he had completely disgraced himself. But she thought that no, if he runs now, he will embarrass himself even more. He must find a way out, and somehow get out of this situation. Today is already ruined anyway, but he has to come up with something. Then a man shouted to him from the audience, and said that it was better not to show, they're not here to watch him fool around. The man who was sitting next to him asked if they could remove him. They don't want to look at this fool. Then the man turned to him, and told him that he could not come down. Bai Wu thought that he couldn't just give up and get away with it. He should calm down because the success of the auction is 100%, which means that there is a way out. He can't rely on the system at a time like this. He needs to use his skills and abilities. It's not for nothing that he has been writing books for so many years. After that, he picked up this roll of toilet paper and said that in their eyes, it could be an ordinary roll of toilet paper. However, this is a very important thing for him. All the guests stared up and started listening to him. Only one, Ching Ching, was unhappy and thought, "What is he up to this time?" Bai Wu continued his speech and said that now they might not believe that such a tall, handsome, courageous man constantly cried as a child. They mocked him and called him a little girl. He told the story that it was his birthday that day. His mom made him noodles, and his father put a beautifully wrapped roll of toilet paper right on the table. Bai Wu then asked his father why he gave him a roll of toilet paper. His father patted him on the head and said that he was a real man, and real men don't cry. The next time he cries, he should wipe his tears with it, and Dad will always support him no matter what happens. But soon after, unfortunately, his parents left this world. His family lived very poorly, and therefore he was left with nothing but debts and just one roll of toilet paper. Every time he remembers his father's words, he overcomes the urge to cry. He has endured a huge amount of adversity in life, and he remembers his father's instruction: he must be strong. Thus, step by step, he went to his goal. Finally, he is here. Half a roll of toilet paper is his evidence of struggle. Today, on this important day, he made a very important decision for himself. He will sell this roll at a charity auction. Ching Ching was shocked and thought, how could he? She looked around at the expressions on people's faces and thought that, however, fortunately it didn't work. Bai Wu thought, is it really a failure? It turns out that he failed, but then one man started applauding him and said that his story touched him very much. He really liked this guy. He will pay him 10 million. Bai Wu asked if it was really serious. The auction host said that he congratulates him on his victory. Bai Wu looked at him and thought, why does this presenter look so much like a donkey? He exhaled but was still shaking all over. He is lucky that he has experience in writing novels. However, he is still a little ashamed. He looked at Ching Ching and asked her what did she really want to frame him. He was ready for it. Ching Ching said that he was lucky again this time. However, let him know that luck is not infinite. Then she got up and left there. Bai Wu wiped the sweat from his forehead and thought that he had just saved himself from disgrace. But the plan to meet all the celebrities seems to have failed. He went down to the parking lot and thought that even though he got out of this situation with the help of a fictional story, but in their eyes, he was still a clown. And Ching Ching also left, and without her, no one will pay attention to him. In order to get a high status, you need to work hard and earn a lot of money. Then a car drove past him. He saw the man to whom he had sold his toilet roll, and Nier was driving. Bai Wu thought, is this really the same person who bought a roll of toilet paper from me? And Nier's with him? But why are they together? Bai Wu thought. Are these two really together? What is the system for? He was told that Muir has a joint business with this man, and they will get married soon. Bai Wu was surprised and thought that had his abilities improved. Could it be because of that update? So, they will get married, so that's why she was acting so cold with Ching Ching. Now he understands everything. It's so difficult with these rich people. It's better not to get involved with them. Now he has an eye on it to earn money quietly, so he needs to find an assistant among the antique dealers. After all, he doesn't really understand it. Then he remembered about Lao Wang and thought. By the way, he remembered about him. I wonder if he's found anything of value lately. The system told him that Fatty Wang had valuable things again. Bai Wu thought this guy was just amazing. Does he always find something cool and that makes him richer all the time? Well, if he cooperates with him, wouldn't it be great? He has connections among antiquaries, a well-hung tongue. In some inconvenient moments, he can go for a break. Having him as an assistant in the future will be easy for him in antique circles. Well, now it's time for him to implement this idea. The next day, Lao Wang was talking on the phone and asked why Bai Wu hadn't reached yet, questioning if he was coming already. He had been waiting for him for half a day, so he needed to hurry up. After ending his call, Bai Wu approached him. Lao Wang immediately changed his face and said that he has nothing for him. He has to get out of here. Bai Wu told him not to be so vindictive as he came to discuss cooperation with him. Lao Wang asked what cooperation meant, and Bai Wu explained that he was always lucky, finding expensive antiques, and he can determine their true value. They were created for each other, and by cooperating, they could split the profit from sales in half. Lao Wang didn't trust him, stating that he had already used him 2 times, ate meat and soup himself, and didn't even lick the plate. He questioned if Bai Wu really wanted him to cooperate with him. After that, he came to mock him, making him fail. He didn't want to see him. Bai Wu thought that Lao Wang still hated him for those 2 times, and he was very angry now. If he continues to persuade him, he might run into a fight. He didn't come here to argue. First, he needed to calm down. It was necessary to use the opportunity while it was there, and eventually, it would crawl to him. At the moment when he had already moved away from the shop, 2 people approached Lao Wang. He asked them why they took so long. Bai Wu stopped and thought that it looked like Lao Wang had a big deal. Lao Wang told the man to take it out, and he would look. The man told him that it was the 7-star dagger of General Cao Cao himself. Lao Wang took this dagger in his hands to take a look. Bai Wu stopped and thought, is it really the 7-star dagger of General Cao Cao? That's a lie. He examines it so carefully. How can this dagger be real? The system said that the probability of detecting a fake was 0%. Lao Wang told those 2 men that the price was not bad and asked them to name the price. Bai Wu, hearing this, got angry at him and thought, is he crazy to buy this fake? But wait a minute, could it be that this fake is specially made so that it cannot be distinguished from the original? The system said that the probability of detecting a fake was 0%. Bai Wu chuckled and thought that Fatty Wang was still a sly one. If this dagger even he can't tell the difference, this means that the level of fraud is quite high. However, he has the ability to see everything secret and explicit. However, is there really not a single flaw in this fake? Is there any way he can find out? He tried to ask if he could find any flaw, but he thought that's not how things are done. The system showed him the flaw of this dagger. Bai Wu began to examine it carefully and thought, is the gem really broken? Is the gem fake? It can't be because Lao Wang has been selling antiques for a long time. But still damaged? Maybe it's really fake. Or is it not all about the jewel? Could there be something under the stone itself? How dare he reject his cooperation? We need to show him. Now he will show him a master class. He approached the group, and Lao Wang immediately hid the dagger. Bai Wu told him that he didn't have to hide it and asked, what else is a 7-star blade? It's a fake. Lao Wang asked him what he meant, and Bai Wu said that he had lost face. Lao Wang was angry and said that he was looking at this knife. If the blade was damaged or the shape was broken, he would have noticed. He has been in antique circles for 10 years. Does he really think that he will not be able to distinguish a fake from a real product? He realized what he really wanted. He has already told him that he will work alone, and that's it. Bai Wu told him that if he proves to him that this knife is a craft, will he go to talk to him in this case? Then Lao Wang asked him what if the blade turns out to be original. He wants to use this situation to cooperate with him, but he doesn't need him. Bai Wu asked him, how much would he sell this dagger for? Lao Wang told him that he had already said that he would not cooperate with him. Bai Wu said 500,000 yuan, but if he makes a mistake, he will pay him 100 times more. Lao Wang shoved this blade at him and told him to watch and not forget his own words. He must take into account that he does not trust him because he has a reason to lie, so let him open their eyes in what place is the blade fake. Bai Wu started looking at the blade and told Lao Wang that he would teach him a lesson today. He picked up some kind of thing and said that it was a combat weapon, after all. Lao Wang asked him what he was going to do, but Bai Wu did not listen to him and swung, hitting the blade so that a spark bounced off it. Lao Wang was very angry and asked him what he had done. Now he would not live. Bai just chuckled and thought, is he still not willing to cooperate? After that, he showed Lao Wang the blade and asked him if he was sure there was a QR code during the Three Kingdoms. Lao Wang took the blade in his hands and realized that there was actually what Bai Wu had told him. He couldn't believe his eyes. Bai Wu told him that he had already told him that he was a master of antiques, and asked him that maybe they would start their cooperation after all. Now Lao Wang was angry at those two men who brought him a fake. He told them that they were already completely messed up. Did they really think they could deceive him? Are they really tired of living? He turned around, but those two men were no longer there. Then he shouted to them that let them run, otherwise he's lying to them. After that, he turned to Bai Wu and asked him how did he know that the dagger was fake, or maybe he hired these two at all. Bai Wu asked him if he really thought he was with them. If he could make fakes of this level, does he really think he would look for it? He's got talent too. Lao Wang said to hell with him. He couldn't listen anymore. Bai Wu turned to him and said that according to their agreement, he was winning, and now he was working with him. Lao Wang said that he is so veiled, but he is really afraid that he will throw it, so Putin would rather look for another person. Then Bai Wu began to lose patience, and told him that it wasn't fair. Lao Wang said that he is an ordinary antique dealer from the market, and he also talks to him about honesty. Once he opens his mouth, the bigwigs will come right up. Probably they will explain about honesty. Bai Wu asked what are the bigwigs. Lao Wang said that he would still have to forget about cooperation with him, but Fat Wang was kind to him. He could not leave his help unpaid. He can take anything. It will be considered his gratitude for the help provided. Bai Wu asked, what is this garbage? Lao Wang asked. What is garbage? He traded it all. Let him just look because this Kasukshu and Zhang himself put it on. Bai Wu asked him what kind of theatrical costume he stole from which troupe. There are even cigarette butt holes here. Lao Wang was confused and then showed him a wine cup from the Jin-Yang area of Wusong himself. He couldn't believe it. He asked, why does it seem to him that this bowl is made of ordinary noodles? Does he even have normal things? Lao Wang started rummaging through his things again and said that he would show him the thing now. Where did she go? While Bai Wu was watching Lao Wang, he thought that this pile of junk seems like Fat Wang really has a life about nothing. To tell the truth, he has profited at his expense many times, and he would not be surprised if he did it on purpose. Then Lao Wang said that here they are, and Bai Wu was very surprised and asked, what else is that? Did he steal it in the parks during morning exercises? Lao Wang told him to open his eyes because these are the twin swords of one of the most powerful generals of the Three Kingdoms era, Liu Bei. The system told Bai that it was 100% original. The owner of these paired swords is indeed Liu Bei, but other data is not available yet. Bai Wu asked, what is the original? Lao Wang said, of course. But he could not give them to him. Thanks to him, he would start a new life. Wu thought that it turns out Lao has such sorts. This is really God's mercy. Having this golden key, he will definitely be able to negotiate with that person. He needs to figure out how to get those swords. Lao Wang asked him what he had already seen. Did he really think he didn't have any worthwhile things? When he took them out, he almost died of envy. Bai Wu said that recently there was a 7-star dagger of Chow Chow, and now Liu Bei's pair of swords. He is right on the way to the 3 kingdoms today. While they told him to just look at the condition, the shape, and the structure, and the design is so detailed. Bai said that he was also talking about the 7-star dagger just now, wasn't he? Lao Wang didn't know what to say to that. BYU continued to put pressure on him and asked what he thought these swords had a QR code. Lao Wang completely drooped in picking up this sword, thinking that their dagger and sword looked the same as the original. The one who created these silver coins is magnificent. Instead, he thought he could collect Liu and Cao's weapons and sell them at sky-high prices. In the end, after that, he started shouting that fakes were coming across one after another. The Lord wanted him dead. Then he was stopped by Bai Wu, who said he was watching. Apparently he failed. He needs these swords, so let him set prices for him, and he will bargain with him. Lao Wang said that he also said that he would thank him by choosing himself, so let him take it already. He's furious, so he gives it to him. Bai Wu thanked him, then he left. After that, Lao Wang sat down at the table and lit a cigarette, thinking that Wu was actually a loser. Bai Wu noticed this and thought that he would look for something else to let him earn a little, otherwise, he would also feel guilty. In the beginning, he wanted to get acquainted with Qi Lao. However, he is a first-class tycoon in antiquarian circles. A simple gift at a meeting is not enough. There is a whole hierarchy of authorities. At the very top is a mysterious buyer. After that comes Qi Lao, the authority of the business circle. After that comes Bai Wu, a new potential strength of the business community. After him comes the fat man Wang, an old sly businessman, and the very last stage is called business students. Bai Wu thought that it was just possible to give these swords to Qi Lao after all. Then the thing will really meet a good owner. He stood at the entrance to Qi Lao's house and thought that if only he would not meet those uncooperative assistants of Qi again.